Havana, Cuba, born September 12, 1962. Had the great distinct honor and pleasure to be able to come here to this great country. Came to this country September 7th, 1967. When we first came here, it was completely different. The stories that I remember as a young kid, my father looking for ways how he can leave the country and how he can leave Cuba. Every day he would go interview different friends or different individuals or different neighbors that the government came over and visited. He would ask them what documents they asked, what requirements they asked, and my father had 4 file cabinets in the living room that I remember distinctly where everything he needed, every document he could have, he wanted to have there. He wanted to be prepared for this. When the day came that they came to tell us, very different how this government works and how, from a communist way, how they approach things. They just come, they knock on your door, they tell you, listen, we have an exit for you at 2 o'clock that you can leave. They told him he couldn't leave. They told him my mother couldn't leave. My sister couldn't leave. And my sister was 6 months old, and that I could leave. And that's how it all starts, where I get to come to this country. As I come to this country, I'm blessed to have individuals that were like my foster parents that were just incredibly special. I didn't know them. I never knew of them. They were individuals that, through a cousin of my father, her husband, knew them from Puerto Rico. And through that, they took care of me. And then after that, months later, my mother came, my sister came, and then I think about a year later, my father came. I can't tell you remember the exact date, but he came. I do remember though that I would listen to a station called WQA, and it would say a list of everyone who's being released or leaving. It's on a list to leave, and I was the first one to hear my father's name. And my father's name, ironically, is Bienvenido, which means welcome. My mother's name is America. So welcome to America. And it's always been something that I've always held and I cherish very, very much. Not only because they were my parents, but kind of like a deeper, more profound feeling for me to have that. And then, you say, what's your childhood? Well, I would say to you that my childhood, what you don't know, you don't know. And when you don't know, you react in different ways. What were things that I have? There's a lot of thoughts. At an early age, you start thinking, are you a bad son? Do your parents not like you? All these emotions and thoughts that you have. But again, I was always grateful for the individuals that took care of me. I was always grateful then when my mother came. I was always grateful for being here. Didn't know what happened, couldn't understand what happened at a very young age. But I would say, if anything, it made my childhood kind of evaporate quicker and grow up faster. And that's what I would say to you that I recall most of all. From there, when my father came, he was here 2 days in Miami. In 2 days, this country was wonderful. This country said to him, based on what you know, based on what you did, architectural, you have to go back to school to get your architect's license, but there's a great opportunity. And they offered him a phenomenal job. It was a job to go to Alaska. The pipeline was starting. At that time, I could see the struggle in my father's head because I would always be with him when he got here. It was just I had missed him and just wanted to be close. And I remember he goes, I know my geography. It doesn't go past Canada. And then they gave him automatically Chicago. And when they gave him Chicago, my father said, okay, we'll be there. And within 2 days, 48 hours, we were on our way to Chicago. Landed in Chicago, quite different than tropical Miami in the middle of November. But again, very, very, very special. We were in a neighborhood that we didn't know, but I found out later on was really one of the worst projects. It was Cabrini Green. Today it doesn't even exist anymore. They've gotten rid of it. But it was a very tough project, a very difficult place, a tough environment. And we were there, for relatively 5-6 months until my father got a job and got made enough to get us out and move out. I couldn't forget how happy I was. We moved to a place called Kedzie, so Logan and Kedzie, and I felt it was very much like a show later on in life that I saw the Jeffersons were moving on up, and it was like moving on up. But from there, I would tell you my life changed in great ways. Living in the Midwest is a very wholesome place. living in the Midwest is very special in this country. I always tell Cubans, I always tell folks who live here, and I always tell people all around whenever I come talk to them, there's nothing like Midwesterners. The values that they have, the way they live, their beliefs, their faith is very, very special. So I feel blessed, truly, to have lived in Chicago, to grow up in Chicago. And the last 10 years of my life there in Chicago, I lived really in a place called Carpentersville. And I played ball there. I played basketball. I had friends. We had our home there, and it was extraordinary. And it was for my generation. When I describe it, I said, if you ever watch the show Leave It to Beaver, that was Leave It to Beaver country. It was a white picket fence. It was a very, very nice. It was middle class America, but just the wholesome of it. Just the wholesome of it was an extraordinary place. So it's always been a very special for me. We moved to Miami. My father, who never complained in his life, never would hear a word negative about this great country, was just always grateful for it. In '78, there was a very tough storm. That storm came, and he was about 12 hours to get home. So really, really tough. 2 weeks later, there was another storm. He was another 4 hours delayed. And he says, you know what? If dumb birds know how to fly south when it gets cold, we're going to go south too. And that's how I ended up in Miami, and it made my life in Miami. Came to Miami here, finished school here, finished my high school, went to college here, and it made my life here all throughout. And I've been here, and today I try to be a great ambassador for this great city. Today I try to be an ambassador for this country always. Today I always try to pay back my gratitude by helping others, by doing things, by being involved in my community. I get to live the American dream, to be very frank with you. I get to see what might have been considered very tough or adverse, and turn that adversity into a silver lining that later on projects everything that's great about this great country. When I tell folks today, no matter how tough things are, no matter how challenging are, if you know a little bit about history, as polarized as you may think things are, they're really not that bad. There's always, this is still the best nation with the best opportunities, with the best people that I think exist in the world all throughout.
Yeah, this is amazing. Taking it a couple of steps back, you were the only one who left Cuba. Did you come through Pedro Pan technically?
No, Pedro Pan finished. Pedro Pan finished.
In '67.
Yes, I came in '66.
66. Okay. So Pedro Pan had just.
Yeah, I think
Pedro Pan might have still been going on, but you came alone.
Yeah,
and connected with family.
Yeah, it was a freedom flight. Vuelo de Libertad.
Yeah. Okay. You were 6.
No, 5.
5.
Yeah.
5 years old. What was your family's life in Cuba? You said your father was an architect?
Yeah, he had. My father would say to me, "Listen, we come from poor, humble backgrounds. His father passed away at a very young age. My grandmother, obviously raised him and raised his older brother. He studied architectural, went to architect, and just beginning his career, beginning his life, beginning there, was anti what was happening there as a student, as a young man, as a young husband. And as he saw what was coming, what he anticipated, and he wanted to give us a better life. So it was always about a better life. And I always felt that it was great lessons for me at a very young age. My father and my mother were like this, uña y carne, in the sense that when they made a decision, it was no one's going to change it, and they made that decision that they were going to come here one way or another, and he would get us here, and then the rest would follow.
And so you settle eventually in Chicago. I love Chicago. It's one of the great American cities, I think. In the Midwest, I hear you 100%. What was it like? What was it like being, this Cuban kid living in Chicago? I mean, there are Latinos in Chicago. Obviously, there's a Mexican community, there's a Puerto Rican community. I don't know what it's like at that time, but not so much Cuban. In the 60s. Not even that so much Cubans today. What was it like?
There was very few Cubans, and yes, there was a Mexican community, but you really didn't even get to see that. So where I ended up, it was really, I was probably one of the few, or if only, white kid in that project. When I started, I was in that school that I went to. That one, it was tough. It was rough. We'll leave it at that. But it was a moment that you can say, is it easy or is it tough? Listen, it's a challenging place. It's a difficult place. It's a hard place, but you get through those things, and any adversity you have in life becomes part of who you are, becomes a part of what your makeup is, and becomes part of how you have the strength to go and do more things and to go beyond.
Um, you're in Chicago for 10 years, and then that's it. No more of these crazy ass winters. That's your dad said.
I don't. By the way, I don't mind it because I really didn't want to come down. You know, when you grow up there, you see everything. I play music, so you saw orchestras, culture, quite different. That Miami didn't have that here. The museums that we had, the Field Museum of Science and Industry, the planetarium, the art center. It was just a very, very special place. Even the education, when you went to high school there, the way you would pick your classes, the hours you would pick your classes, psychology behind the picking and the selections of that, the sports. Everything was at a different level that Miami wasn't there at that time. And when I got there and when I left, I really enjoyed my last 10 years there. It's just nothing but fun and great memories. I can tell you a great memory that I have is I'm a diehard Cubs fan, and I'm a diehard Cubs fan just because here's a team that had not won in 100 years. Here's a team that generations after generations have missed out on a championship, and Old Man Wrigley would open up the stadium to all kids after 5 2/3 innings. So every mother knew when their kids weren't home where they were at. They were at the baseball park waiting to get in to go see a game for free. I sat in more first base, home base, third base box seats as a kid than I've ever done later on in my life. Doing that, it also gave me another lesson of how do you build a business early on there. You saw a man who owned the team. You saw a man who was dressed very, very elegant as a gentleman, and he would let all kids. So he created lifetime fans by allowing them to come in and enjoy. And he had two rules: be a gentleman and respect the ushers. And the ushers in the 60s, when I was there, seeing them was very special because the ushers were all radio men. And radio men could tell great stories. They were great orals. They could say, they can tell you a story and paint the picture so well, so vivid. So I was mesmerized many times as a kid listening to the stories, even more than the game in itself. And then after the game, the owner would come down in a pristine suit, perfectly ironed, and would come down. He would ask the kids, which player do you want to see? So he signs. And the rules were that the player never left until the last kid got signatures. So going to school, Ron Santos, Rick Monday, Jose Cardenals, you name it, I collected those signatures. And then obviously in '69, I thought we were going to go to the pennant and championship. We're 10 games up heading into September. And the Miracle Mets eliminated that. But it's just great memories for me there. I also went to another, my father took me one time to Soldier Field to go see the Chicago Bears, and a great memory there. We sat next to God. So we must have sat in the last row way on top. And as we sat up there, my dad goes, enjoy, this is the first time and last time this Cuban ever brings you here. It's so cold, and the wind's coming off the lake, and the lake effect, it was very, very, very cold. But, those are all great memories that I have that I cherish all my life. And that later on I saw down here when we got baseball and I got tickets for my father. I enjoy seeing my father taking my son, and I enjoyed seeing them living and enjoying those things. So it's all great memories. You build upon things, and in life, you get what you put into it. In life, you the perception you create and the perspective you look at can be two different ways. And I always had a very positive outlook on things.
These are great memories. You relocate to Miami. You're 16, 17? How old are you?
Turning 16.
Turning 16. But two big moves. First from one country to another, different languages. Then you come here from warm, tropical, beautiful Cuba, which I've been going through some things obviously. And then they send you to Chicago. You're loving Chicago, Wrigley Field. And then all of a sudden, at 16, you're already in high school.
In high school, finishing junior year.
We're gonna relocate yet again, and now we're gonna come to Miami. I guess what I'm getting is definitely a lot of change in as a young person.
Sure.
But you land in Miami. You finish high school here. Where do you go to school?
So I finished here at high school. I went to Miami-Dade after that. Then I went to LaSalle University, and finished there.
And then, did you go straight from there to get your MBA at Harvard?
I went later on. At Harvard, I went and got it in 2015. It started in 2012, 2015.
Okay. So significant. Many years later, you went back.
Yeah. And it's an OPM, so it's an MBA. It's an OPM class that they have. It's for presidents, for YPOers, and they had, and it was a great way to It was a dream to go there. It was a dream to learn. It was a dream to meet the teachers that are there, to think about the history that's there, and something that I really enjoyed. Something that was very powerful for me.
You living in Chicago, which is a great American city with pretty good public transit. At that time, you come to Miami where there's no public transit. That's my long way of saying, how do you end up going into the automotive industry?
Oh, that's great. A great question. I always love cars. I always love cars. I can tell you a story. Let me backtrack a second. My father, we were poor, and but as a humble, he always was enriching me in different ways. One of the ways that my father enriched me was very much he made me read the paper. And I remember at a very young age, I'm talking second, third grade, which is not easy to read the paper at that age. But he said to me, we got to get the paper. You got to read the paper to me every day. That's what I want to learn. I know what's happening. And I would say, I don't know how to read it. I said, well, you'll figure it out. Word by word, we'll figure it out. And I said, well, we're poor. We can't afford the paper. He goes, and my father had a wit about him. He goes, you know what? Go to the neighbor across. Ask him for yesterday's paper. I said, Dad, but it's old. He goes, well, if you're one day behind, you're okay. And that kind of wit always stayed with me, and it fueled me in different ways, and it taught me many things. My father gave me a gift of reading books, and he says you can travel the world, you can see the world through books, you can learn through books, and that's very, very, very true. And I tell folks all the time, I said, today kids have a way to go learn where what you have available to you really through the internet, what you have available through YouTube, what you have available is amazing what you can do. But in those days, he gave me a lesson and a love for reading that till this day, I read a book a week on an average, if not sometimes more, depending on the size. But it's a great gift that he gave me early on, and he taught me that gift. Reading the paper was another great gift, to be able to talk about anything, to be able to discuss anything. I cheat today in the sense that I have filters on the paper, so I only read the things that I want to read instead of reading more things, because you learn more when you're going through the paper. But those are great gifts that he gave me that I think have served me all my life throughout. As I finished school, I had studied economics. I went to go work at a place. I didn't feel good about it. At that time, I leave. And I go work and I start the automotive business, and I select who I want to go work for. And I went to work for an icon in this community. I went to work for an icon in the auto business. I went to work for Norman Braman. I started as a salesperson there, and the person who interviewed me, Linda Brickman, I'm always grateful to her because to have that opportunity, to have that chance, and I thought it was it was a great company, and I think hopefully a better company when we left. But it's a great opportunity to go work for him and work at the Honda store. And I started working at a Honda store on Bird Road, Braman Honda, and I made my career there. Basically, I started there as a salesperson, and eventually became a general manager in 1987. From there, I was able to develop. I learned a lot. Had the backup, the support from him. Had an organization that carried probably the most prestigious names and brands all throughout in this community. So I felt very privileged to lead and to grow, and to have the opportunity to grow it in a way that I thought would only be better.
How involved was Mr. Brayman when you were at the organization? Did you have a lot of touch points?
I think, when I was a salesperson and stuff, I think he was building his business. So he started, I think, in 75, 76. He was building his business as he's building his business. But he had another business that was very important to him in 1985. As I was growing in the company, he had just bought the Philadelphia Eagles, which is another beautiful story. You think about someone who was a water boy on the team to one day owning the team. That's an extraordinary thing. And I was growing in the business while he was doing that. There was a time that he was focused on growing that. He also had another great business that he opened at that time. He was a distributor for Sterling, which is another brand that he had brought to this country through Honda and through Range Rover and Land Rover, and he had built that. So he was building two businesses outside of what he was doing here. He had stores here, he had stores in Palm Beach, he had stores in Sanford, Florida, he had stores in Tampa that he was involved with. So he was very, very tied into the business. Later on, he was working on different things, and that was an opportunity for us to grow. That was an opportunity for each store general manager. He had decentralized the stores. As we decentralized the stores, each store is having their own general manager, and that was a great opportunity for me to separate, to grow the company, and to grow the store.
What did you learn? Sales is people think of car salesmen with a very negative connotation, at least used car salesmen. But sales is not as simple as being transactional, right? It involves a lot of relationship building and a lot of marketing, a lot of like psychology. What did you learn as a salesperson when you were at Bremen Honda?
I think the biggest thing is staying true, being always transparent, and always seeking. Really, there's a great book that I read, Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Excuse me. And in that book, seeking win-win. And when I set my life to do that, and almost everything that I work on, and anything really that I go out there for business today, I always seek a win-win solution. And I always find that, and I tell people, I still, till to this day, it's never changed, that philosophy. And that philosophy has helped me grow. Sometimes I want to win more for someone than maybe they want it themselves. And I sit down to encourage, I sit down to motivate, and sometimes I said I'll sit down also to push you, to drive you, because maybe sometimes you don't see it, but I want you to see it. So I want to take you there. But what I learned there, really the most important thing is that I think car dealers, I think car people that are in the car business are probably the greatest people because they're part of the community. Their whole business is part of the fabric of this great country. And if you look at the history of the automobile and you take a look at the history of all the brands, the richness there, if you look at Ford, if you look at General Motors, if you look at Chrysler, if you look at Plymouth, Dodge, all of those play such an intricate role in this country. The great generation, as we call it, that fought World War II, yes, it was a great generation, but behind that great generation was a great industry that helped. When the call came that, hey, you needed to have tanks, you needed to have building ammunition, you had to build rifles, you had to build machine guns, you had to build bombs, you had to build boats, you had to build everything. The industry, changed everything from 41 to 45 to do that, to supply that. It was incredible. Whether it be there in Detroit, which is, I think, a city that saved the world. I tell people, I said, as much as you want to knock it, it's a city that saved the world. If it wasn't for that city, if it wasn't for the production of that, today arigato or Dankashur. That's we'd be speaking German or Japanese. So it saved the world. It liberated the world. And then you take a look at this country, the humility in a sense that any country that wins normally would take land or normally would take something, and just the opposite. All they ask for is a little piece of territory so they can bury their dead. That's all they ask for, and they pay for it or they lease it in perpetuity, and they take care of it in a pristine manner because I think it's the strength and at the core of what America is. And then it went back and said, let me open the economy for the rest of the world. How do they rebuild? Well, here's a philosophy that we have. Here's a philosophy we want to have for free enterprise. And it protected the seas. And till this day, it's controlled the sea lanes where 80% of all material is moved and merchandise. So bringing that back, what does that mean to me in the car business? To me, I think I'm an ambassador for the car business. There's a period of time that I'm here. In that period of time, I get a chance to be in it. I get to grow it. I get to develop. I get to build a business. But I want to leave it better for the next person. I want people to see what it is, because I think if you took a look at most car dealers, if you took a look at most individuals in this business, they're like everyone, but more importantly, I think they're relationship builders. They're into relationships, they're into developing, they're into their community, because we sell to our community. It's you put a dot, you draw a circle, 3 miles, 5 miles, 7 miles, 10 miles, 12 miles, 20 miles. That's where you're selling. So we're the ones that support the Little Leagues. We're the ones that support the high schools. We're the ones that support the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. And then we get involved in different things like I have over the years.
My dad was a mechanic. Had a paint and body shop in Doral for years. So
Okay.
grew up around big car, and him and my mom met at Anthony Abraham. He worked there, so I feel you. You build this great career at Bremen, but then at some point you say, Mario, there's maybe greener pastures. There's new opportunities. What leads you to lead a successful career in a successful organization to kind of strike out on your own? What comes next?
Well, at every turn in life, you sometimes hit a juncture, and you hit that juncture, and you hit that crossroad, and you take a road. I had a great run. I had a great opportunity there. I had an opportunity to become one of his first managing partners in the company. I had a great opportunity to grow to the title of president and CEO in the company. I had the opportunity the privilege to operate his stores and grow his stores and develop those stores, and it's something that I take I'm forever grateful. Today, it's the way I look at it. It's Norman in a great way served as a mentor, and as I shared early on, an icon in this industry. That's how I take a look at it. From there, when that time comes and you're in that crossroad, you take that opportunity. And at that time, when I resign and I take a look at what's the next steps, the next step is really to have everything you've done for someone else. How can you do it for yourself? What are the things that you would do different? People ask me, do you work harder? I said, no, I worked equally as hard for him because I was very proud and very proud to work for him and proud to build that organization in the same way. And sometimes you work even harder for someone than you would for yourself. Because that responsibility is an awesome responsibility that you have. But I had the opportunity to do that. I have two founding partners that I had with me at that time, and those two founding partners, Alex and Rick, and we started on May 21st, 2001, and I never forget, 8:08 p.m. You never forget when you sign everything away and it's all done. And we took a store that was really destroyed. We took a store that was selling 16 Hondas a month. It was selling
Brickell Honda you started with.
Brickell Honda, Brickell Buick, and Brickell Pontiac and Brickell GMC. And those stores were the attention wasn't there. It wasn't given. It wasn't the investments weren't there to put back into the business. So it was selling 16 Hondas. It was selling 6 Pontiacs and GMCs. It was selling 22 used cars. We couldn't even bring anyone. We had just do things on our own as we started it up. But today, we've been able to build those stores over the years to a place where we do, that campus today does 9,000 to 10,000 cars a year. So it's a completely different story. Everything in our industry people think happens, and everything in our industry you have to plan, and you have to work hard at it. Early on in 2001, 2002, I had planned where I said there's an opportunity to be in Stewart, and I wanted to be in Stewart with an Audi store and an Infiniti store, and I worked hard, tenaciously after that, among other things. Realized in 2011. In 2013, I built it. In December of 2013, I opened our first campus. It was also a way to show the world, here's where we have a chance, when we have a clean white piece of paper of what we would build and how we would build it. And we built that campus up with Audi and Infiniti. Later on, we added to that Alfa and Maserati, and look forward to expanding that area even more as that area grows more there as well. Had a desire for a Cadillac store. And Cadillac means a lot to me. In 2002, I started seeing the owner of the store. I would go by, I would say hello, and chasing it. It took me to 2012 to maybe get closer to that, and by 2014, I was finally able to buy that store. So look how long of a period of
tenacity.
Absolutely,
is one of your
absolutely
strong points.
Tenacity, perseverance, drive, and being committed to it.
I want to take a step back. I want to kind of get into the expansion back to Stewart, but I guess the question is tenacity, perseverance. But how did you turn the Brickell stores around? Because here's clearly a failing business at that point when you guys took it in, but you saw an opportunity, you saw something. You're like, we're gonna take the ugly duckling and we're gonna turn it into a swan, and now you're doing 10,000 cars a year from selling. Sounds like barely 100 when you guys a year when you took it over.
It was less than 100.
How did you? What were those skill sets that you and your team and your partners instilled to kind of say to turn this around?
So I would say easily first it starts hard work, but really what it starts with is having a plan. So you create a plan, you create a business plan, you create a structure for it, you have the discipline. I can't stress enough for anyone who wants to have a business, if there's one word that I would tell you that you have to have is discipline. When you apply disciplines to a plan and you're tenacious about it every single day and you work with it, that's how you build it. And understand there's going to be mistakes, understand there's things that you're going to have to pivot on, understand you're going to have challenges, understand you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. But the one thing that'll carry you through, if you're consistent and if you have a business plan and if you have the discipline to execute on it. And execution is key. There's a lot of people who dream. There's a lot of people who have a lot of great thoughts. There's a lot of people there, but very few people then execute well on it. And I tell folks, I said, you can dream all you want, but do me a favor, dream when you're awake so you can remember the dream. And that's what we try to do. And through the efforts of my partners, through the efforts of each and every associate that came working for us, we built up pretty quick a team. We just applied ourselves hard, and we applied difficulties we try to overcome. challenges we try to overcome and grow there. And it wasn't an easy time. 9/11 came in September. When 9/11 comes, fortunately for us, General Motors comes out with a plan, put America back on the road again. But we've been through different economic turns all throughout there and different challenges out, and every one you prepare from. And then
How long did it take you? You'd say
to be
to really
to
feel like we can grow, but we've successfully turned this business around.
to be perfectly honest, I still feel we don't. It's. I think the day you start thinking you're there, that's the day it begins. It's the end, and I think you shouldn't be there. So, I can sit here and I can say, look, is there successes? There are multiple successes. There are multiple wins. There are multiple things that you can celebrate, but those should all be feeding, and those should all be footsteps. That those are launching pads for the next step. So that's really how I look at it. Today, our organization will top over $2 billion in sales. So when I first started, it was doing $2 million a month. So when I first started, it was going to do $25 million a year is what it was on track for. When we finished that year, we finished over $60 million. And you just have to be committed, and you have to have a dream there, and you have to have a vision of where you wanted to have. I had a vision early on of what I wanted to do. I had a vision of what I call my painted picture, and you paint that picture of where you're at, what are your needs, why do you have that. I tell folks all the time, you got to have purpose in anything you want to do, and you have to be intentional about it. It's so important to be intentional. I think a lot of people do things, and they're not fully committed and not fully intentional about it. And not being intentional, you deprive yourself of the very best you can offer. And if you can offer the very best, more likely you're going to have a good chance to win. Because convictions are an incredible thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And your convictions look towards growth and towards expansion, and you're successful in Miami, and then you're eyeing Stewart, which is only a couple hours away, but it's not your backyard.
All right.
This question plays into the following ones that we're going to talk about. So you know where we're going. How did you manage? We're now are expanding our business, and we're in two different markets technically in Florida, but certainly two different markets, and this is a different operation level.
Sure.
You can't jump in the car and be at the dealership in 30 minutes. Now all of a sudden it's going to take you 2.5 hours to get to
2 hours.
2 hours to get to Stewart. How was that initial expansion? Were there growing pains?
Oh, of course, but so let me tell you one of the things that I do that maybe is unique or different than other people might do. We may offer positions to the new companies we have, but more than ever, I hire new teams for each place. I figured a long time ago that if I was going to go grow any market, I had to go grow it with new teams in those markets, people who live there, people who make that their community, people who make that their life, because you sell cars at the schools, you sell cars at the church, you sell cars at the synagogue, you sell cars at the Publix, you sell cars in the Winn-Dixies, all those things. So, and I never wanted to have anyone have to go through that sacrifice of driving that or doing that. I learned that when I was in Palm Beach earlier on with Norman. So I always committed myself that wherever I went, I would bring people that are from there or grow with people that are from there. And I think what you have to do is sometimes you go into a store and you say, well, these people aren't doing a good job. Well, they either have a knowing or a doing problem. And when you can quantify that, which is a knowing or a doing, then you can change. And what you work on changing is behaviors. And when you start working on behaviors, you start going after outcomes. And you go through outcomes going after activities. Activities that change those outcomes. And when they see that they can win, everyone then moves along and changes. It's when they don't win that they give up. And sometimes they give up just a step before they were going to win. And that's where you come in, and that's where your coaching, that's where your structure, that's where your game plans are at. And then strategic-wise, you put out strategies that are there that give you and feed you today and tomorrow and beyond, and you support it with tactics that are always going to let you maneuver and do different things. And then you're ready for anticipating things that you weren't expecting, because that happens too.
I don't know if you were expecting this, but all of a sudden you're growing in two markets in the state of Florida, which is home at this point. But I guess that you don't shake off those Midwestern roots.
No,
And you're like, I'm gonna go back to the Windy City, and your business expands. And this is not Georgia. This is not the neighboring state. You're gonna go back up to the Midwest. Talk to me about that was there always a decision? I want to get back into Chicago. I have a connection to I love this city. Tell me about how you decided
So
to expand in Chicago.
So before that, I have to tell you really the great master plan. I call it, and I call it my painted picture. When I did my painted picture, I said, what would I want my legacy to be? Certainly, I want my legacy. My first choice is that it's a family business. Would my sons want to be in this business? And seeing the failures that I saw of other dealers trying to force their kids in the business, I never forced my kids. I always encouraged them, but I never forced them. They had to want it because they saw the hours that I worked, they saw the energy that I put in, they saw the time that it took, they saw what I missed. So there's sacrifices that went along with that. Lots of sacrifices for the family. But at that time, I said, either two things will happen. Either I can grow a company that's for a legacy. In 1999, I saw an article. It was in Newsweek. I later on looked at different case studies that said the growth of the Hispanics and the growth of the Hispanic population. And if you look at the growth of the Hispanic population, it's really all through the Sun Belt. And it said in that article in Newsweek, in the year 2040, it'll be the majority. And you're sitting there in the year 1999, you're sitting there 2000, if you remember Y2000 and everything else like that. It's a lot of changes coming. And you say to yourself, you know what, that doesn't sound too far, that 40 years. It is, but it's not, because it's 4 decades. And so I said, how do we work towards that? So from that standpoint on, I always said I had a vision, a desire, and a drive to say, how can I grow in Miami? How can I grow in Fort Lauderdale? How can I grow in Palm Beach? How can I grow in Orlando? How can I grow in Tampa? How can I grow in Jacksonville? How do I move there to Texas? How do I grow in Dallas? How do I grow in Houston? How do I grow in San Antonio? How do I take a look at things that are maybe in far Texas? How do I look at things that are in Brownsville, Texas? Because I also have great respect for those border areas because I think the Hispanics that are there are the hardest working Hispanics. Mostly Mexican, but the hardest working, and the car to them means everything, because without the car, they can't get the jobs, they can't make the money to send back and take care of their families. So I really look at the border towns very, very, very strong. McAllen is another area that I look at also as well. And then from there, I go to Albuquerque. Then I go from there, I go to Tucson. Then I go to Phoenix and to go to in Arizona. And then from there, I always thought about California, touching San Diego and touching then Orange County in California. And that was really my vision from that Sun Belt. And then what's the largest Midwestern city? So Chicago's the 4th largest metropolitan. It's an incredible market, but it also has a huge Hispanic side to it. Primary Mexican, but a huge from that standpoint. And then I took a look up in the Northeast. You take a look at New Jersey, you take a look at New York, also a huge concentration. Again, not Cuban, but Hispanics in general. And over the years, you saw the growth of that equally as well, and you saw the development of that equally as well. So those are all things that I've looked at that always planned for me, and that was our vision all throughout. And I stayed always true to our vision. The only anomaly that I have is 2 wonderful stores in Virginia that would not match that, but they're so important to me because they're next to our capital. They're less than 90 minutes away, and the history and richness of Virginia and Richmond meant a lot to me. When I was asked if I wanted that opportunity, I said, well, let me go take a look. And when I drove up, it was on a Sunday. After I did all my due diligence of driving around there, I said, let me drive to the Capitol. And driving around the Capitol, seeing the Lincoln Memorial, seeing the Jefferson Memorial, seeing the Washington Memorial, and then driving back to head home, I was just in love and enamored to say, gee, what to be, what a privilege it is to be in this great country, and then to have one of America's oldest cities, the capital of Virginia, and next to the capital of the United States, and be able to do business here too. And from there on, I fell in love and wanted to do that also as well.
Um, it's the master plan, the painted. I love the expression, the painted picture. I haven't heard that before, but I love that concept. Where you talk a lot about the Hispanic market. Was the Hispanic market always at the center of the business plan? Was it always like we really want to go after Hispanics in all these communities?
No. It's part of it. So what separates me? What makes me more unique? What gives me there? I think this country's allowed us to come here, and I think we owe to give back more and to do more. I believe there's higher expectations of me than another dealer. I believe that that there's more responsibility. in Matthew's, there's a passage that says, "To whom much is given, much is expected." And I feel blessed every day, and I feel that I have to work harder and have to do more. And I feel that because I feel it's due. I feel that to be blessed to be living in this country, other people don't have that opportunity. Other people didn't have that opportunity. So I want to be able to do that, and I want to make a company it's a great company. It's the culture that it's a great culture throughout. And our secret formula is very simple. We try to hire good people. We try to make sure we have a vision, and then we try to make sure we execute well on it. And that's in a very simplistic way that I share it to you like that, but that's kind of what we set out. And we always set out, as I sit down with every general manager first, it's I never win until you win. And then your job is to teach every manager that you never win until they win. And then every manager that's underneath them is that they never win until they're people that they're responsible for. And it's an awesome responsibility today with 1,700 employees. You multiply it times 4 people. And when you do that, you say, holy cow, I'm in charge of 6,500 people all throughout, that I got to do a good job, that I got to make sure that the decisions we make, the ripple effects of what we do need to be good. And not always do we make the right choices, but we have to recognize quickly when we make the wrong choice, retract and put it in place again the right way. But our growth goals are Chicago. As I go back to Chicago, it was very special to me in December of 2017 to buy a Honda and Volkswagen store in downtown, to think about the city that I started my life in. Really, because that's when I was a boy, to start my life, the city that I fell in love with. I started to get my education there. I started read, write, everything there was very, very special. So we started there and grew that. A few years later, as I shared with you, my father, we were poor, but always did certain things with me. He would take me to see new car dealers. And 48 years ago, he took me to a place that I love, that today I own, which is Motorworks. Motorworks is a very unique and very special place. It's in Barrington, Illinois. It's a suburb. And I always said one of the nicest suburbs of in this country. One of the nicest zip codes in this country. Very, very, very special. In that store, we have a BMW store, we have a Porsche store, we have a Mercedes store, we have a Cadillac store, we have a Honda store, we have an Infiniti store. But I went there when it was just a Cadillac store. And I went there when it was just a Cadillac store, and I met the owner. This is 48 years ago. And he said to me, when you finish high school, you come and work for me. I didn't go work for him, but I always stayed in contact with him. And to dream later on that 48 years later I could buy that store was a dream come true. And one of my partners said to me, I said, we need this. And he says, well, no, we don't need, you want. Okay, well, for all intents and purposes, I thought about that. The next day I said, you know what, for all intents and purposes, need is now a want and a want is need. One and the same. Let's go get this. Because I think it would be a great addition to us. And I couldn't be happier that we acquired that. In between that, we acquired another Honda store in Libertyville, another incredible town, great family town. And we acquired an Acura store in another great town in Highland Park, Illinois. And from there, we moved down back to Virginia when we got those stores, Richmond and Midlothian. And then from there, way before that, we in 2020, we opened a Bentley store that we have in Jacksonville, and we have Maserati. And then in 2019, we had bought from another icon in this business that I have great admiration, great respect, just an incredible man, Roger Penske. Got to meet him many, many years ago, and I've always maintained that relationship. When the opportunity came, we bought his Ferrari store, his Maserati store, and his Bentley store. Had the chance to partner with him for a year and a half as he helped me at the beginning, and then we were able to buy it out, and we have that store. And then our latest acquisition is in California, another place I dreamed about, in Laguna, California, a Mercedes-Benz store, and then at Foothill Ranch, which is another great area, close to Irving, California, another Mercedes store. And that's how we've built what we have today. And it's been done through vision, execution, but great people that have helped me achieve those dreams.
How many?
Ready? Rolling. Go ahead.
Okay. How many dealerships in how many states?
So we're in 5 states, and we have 29 dealerships.
So it's a long road from the 5-year-old kid who arrived here by himself in Havana. I want to talk about team building. You started Brickle when you acquired the Brickle stores. You had two business partners.
Yes,
Are they
yeah,
still your partners?
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Um, Tell me about that, like partnership. I guess what I'm asking about more specifically is like, you know, relationship building. You put into a lot of faith. You found two other gentlemen, and you're like, we can build something together, and you've built a small empire across 5 states and 29
Well,
stores, very different places, very successful. It sounds like. Tell me about knowing how to pick the right people.
no, I thank you for that. I've been blessed. I have two founding partners. I have that when I left Raymond, they came also and gave them the chance to be partners with me, and I'm happy to have. And I couldn't be more proud. I think a lot of the things I can push, I can drive, I can do a lot of things, but without good people and surrounding yourself with good people, you can only do so much. And I have two individuals that I care for very much. I would say the word that I use next is how I feel. I love them. I care for them. And all partnerships will have their strain. All partnerships at times this. But I think the one thing that I think is the most important part that you got to have is the respect. And I think if you always have it and you put that first, the respect, you can put aside things that are personal, and so you can talk about the business and drive the business. You can agree to disagree on things. You can agree to be challenging about different things, but never lose that respect for one another. Never lose, at least for me, the way I look at it. I always, whenever if I'm having a difficult moment or different things, why did I choose them? What were the values that I saw in them? What were the characteristics? Why did I feel this? And still to this day, the same way I felt then is the same way I feel today. And those things are very, very powerful and very profound. And those things help you. And so I look at really having his lifetime. And then from there, we've added, because the way I want to grow the company is to have more partners. As we open more stores, I give an opportunity to general managers. And today we added Gary Wexler, who's a partner also in our Chicago at our Honda store. And then we also have Devin Carlson, who's also another partner, who was the first general manager and the first employee of our Stewart operation in 2013. And I'm very proud of what he's done there and very proud of how he works. And I think, and I always tell him, I said, you're the future, with Mario Jr. There, 'cause he's younger, but I've always felt like that, and it's good. And we look forward to having more. So,
Mario Jr.
yes.
answers the question that you set up earlier, wanting to build a business that your kids would potentially want to come into. How many kids?
I have two. I have two sons, two great sons. I have Mario Jr. He'll be 36 in September, and Michael 33. Now I'm a grandfather. I have two granddaughters through Mario and Monica, and I have a grandson now with Christy and Michael. So couldn't be more happier. Two wonderful young men, two gentlemen. I always say the best of them. Is there in them. I'm very, very, very proud. I would say to you, if you talk to them, I always said I wasn't going to be your friend. Of course, you want to be your friend as a father, but my role as a father is more important than the friendship. And I always pushed them, always drove them, but they're really remarkable young men that I couldn't be more proud of. Remarkable husbands, remarkable fathers. I always said to them, I said, there's no lessons in how to be a father. There's no books that really teach you. You might get some things that give you some hints and some direction, but the things you think that I did good, emulate them, copy them. The things you think I didn't do well, do them better. And I call that progress. And there's nothing more that a father wants to see in his children to do those things. There's nothing more than a father could be more proud. I always told him, I said, you'll have every man compete against you if you're young in sports or different things. When you're a father, there's never a competition. You have such a sense and source of pride of seeing your sons develop, and both of them have developed in a great way. Michael is very entrepreneur, the young one. Michael has multiple ideas, very computer savvy, understands, loves thinking and developing things. I was always more worried with him. I said, listen, in this household, there's 16 grades, so just make sure it's not just high school. You're going to get caught. He went to college. He studied accounting. He got a degree in accounting and financing. He went to work for Deloitte. Got a CPA in his first year. Did very, very well, and today he works for an organization, I think one of the biggest home builders in the country, Lennar. He's a controller for them in one of their divisions, and couldn't be more proud of who he is and how he's doing things. And but he has a great mind that can do a lot of great things. And I always would like him to be in our business, but it's only up to him. That's his decision to make. I think we're building a great family business that could use someone like him and his talents. So that's how I feel that he could play a great role in it. Mario Jr. came to the business early on. He always liked it. He came to sell cars before he was 16. At 15, I said, "Well, you can't drive the cars," and so we're going to demo with you. You got your license. Make sure you got a license, then you can drive the car. But he couldn't drive the car over the summers, and then after, when he went to college, every summer when he came back, he was involved in it. And then when he got back, this is what he wanted to do, and we put him in, and he sat there. He brings a level of humility much better than even I can, and he brings a patience that's more like his mother, and does a good job on it, and he brings a commitment to learning second to none. So he tries to be a great student of the business, and then at the same time I get to see him now as a father. I see a lot of great things in him as a father and his two daughters, and he's doing a great job in running and operating and learning.
And the potential for the family business to continue. Now
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
someone is in.
Yeah.
Someone is in. I want to talk outside of your many successes in the automotive industry. You were somebody who really decided that I want to get involved and give back to the community outside of just through being involved in the community through the dealerships. Talk to me about your involvement with Camilla's House and Nicholas Children's Hospital and
Sure,
some of your more
sure,
kind of
sure.
community philanthropic facing work.
Sure, there's a lot of them. So early on, Camilla's played a role for the Cuban community when we came here, and it was my way of saying, let me see how I can work with them and do different things there for them. I got to host the first Hispanic Cuban radiothon for them, and we did that, and it was a great success. Through the help of many wonderful people and stations who helped me and all throughout, really, to help me get a start and do well there. It was probably one of our first things. I wanted to expose our store early on, so we saw, before really social or digital started coming out, I thought that Brickell Honda, Brickell GMC, and Pontiac, no one really knew, but I said, we're inside the city, we're inside Miami, let's look at the city of Miami, and I started to host once a month someone in government to come in and have a live chat where people could call in and talk through it on the radio, and talk to a commissioner or talk to the mayor that I had come in, and bring all different commissioners there. And I felt it was a great way for me to bring the community together. I always feel that people can fix things and fix any problem if they talk. Sometimes they just don't talk. And sometimes if you can help connect the dots, I think it's great things. And then my involvement with Nicholas Children, First Miami Children, it was special. Here we have an incredible asset, an incredible jewel that this great city has, that has served this community over 75 years, and has served this community first as a polio hospital early on after the war, and then later on as for the children, has developed and cultivated. And it's one of the premier children's hospital in this country, and for that matter in the world, with I would say the greatest docs that you can find, and the greatest nurses. I had the opportunity there to work in many different facets. Worked on the foundation board. I started worked later on the hospital board, and later on work on the system board, which oversees the entire hospital, and had the privilege and the distinct honor to lead them and be the chairman of it at a different time, a point of inflection, at a point of a crossroads, and my goal was always to leave it better, to have a better, I would say, board, to be able to have, to enhance it. And I think that's what we were able to accomplish. And I see it growing, and I couldn't be more proud of that. It's a very special, it's Miami doesn't know how fortunate it is. South Florida doesn't know how fortunate it is. There's only 2 children's hospital in the entire state that just dedicated to children. And it's important to be dedicated to children because children are our future. And if they're our future, then we should be able to give them the best care. And to have no child have to leave our community for great care is an important thing to have. And Miami today is at the epicenter in the world. When you think of cities like London, when you think of cities like New York, when you think of cities like Tokyo, when you think of cities like Paris, you have to think of Miami, and you have to put it there. That's how important Miami is, and that's how Miami has grown. I think that's a testament to everyone that's here. I think if you wanted to look at diversity, if you wanted to have a window of diversity, I tell people, I said, take the glasses, look at Miami, and Miami gives you a window of what the future can be, but not only what the future can be, but how well it can work. And that's something that I always try to share with folks. And with there, I've always involved with different things as well. St. Thomas University, another great university that has helped so many underprivileged, so many that didn't have that opportunity. And throughout there, you find thousands of stories, not hundreds, thousands of great stories of people who've gone through there. That was their first opportunity to do things and to grow there. Had a chance to work with Eduardo at Miami-Dade College to see one of the largest community colleges in the entire country here in Miami that helped so many of my generation get their associate's degree and grow there. From there, FIU, and worked there with great leaders all throughout, and got to work on their foundation. I've done different things, and today I chair Casa Cuba, which is another very special entity for me. It means a lot to me. I'm very, very busy, but I only get involved with things that I want to lead or make a difference and help it succeed and do the things I want to do. And Casa Cuba, there's a place for us that, as a Cuban, when we got our independence, it was after the American War and Spanish War. At the Treaty of Paris, there wasn't a Cuban sitting there. So we were not invited to the table there. I'm grateful to be in this great nation, grateful to be here, but from my heritage standpoint, I want people to have a place that they can see who we are, how we've grown, how we've embraced this country, and how we've become part of the fabric of this great country also as well, and how we want to give back to this country and be a participant that does well. So I think Casa Cuba will give us that. I think FIU has done a major thing there and taken a leap forward as a great university, one of the greatest universities in the state of Florida that has done so much for the Cuban community and the Hispanic community here, and continues to grow with great schools, whether it be the medical school, whether it be the legal school, whether it be the architect school, whether it be nursing, you name it. But now to give us a place to have Casa Cuba on their campus and to make that part of that university is an incredible opportunity for us to take it to the next level, take it to the next step, and to be able to bring and I want that to be every Cuban's Casa Cuba. It's not for this or that. It's everyone and open to everyone, because I want them all to learn, and we learn from our differences as well as our similarities, and we learn in that way so we can do more and be more.
First of all, thank you for all your work in the community.
That's a little bit slow.
A little bit, no, but it's quite a bit. As we're just running out of time, one question I've asked a lot of people, and I think you're kind of the perfect person to answer this for me, is what does the American dream mean?
It is the ultimate gift. It is the gift of freedom. It is the gift of opportunity. It is the gift that if you put your energy, your effort, your time, your compassion, your understanding to work, you can be rewarded. It's a place that, America's a place that if you go to McDonald's, you don't know who's to your right and you don't know who's to his left, but it doesn't matter. We're all happy there to go order and we get our Happy Meal, as I call it. And America is still that. America, I tell folks all the time when they are really down, I say, listen, do me a favor, please. As I started earlier on to you, I said, you might think it's polarizing. I don't see anyone shooting each other. There was a time in our country when they dueled. When they didn't have a certain thing, they dueled. There was a play that came out so people could see it, and it was Hamilton. It was just that was reality to a great extent. But America is still a place where we can do great things. America is still a place where it's the melting pot that allows you to go forward and do things. And I will tell you this: if America opened its doors, if you want to test a nation, it's very simple. Open its doors and see if they swing out or they swing in. They swing in here. Because people here believe in the dream. People here believe that America, you can do more. People here believe that you can achieve more. And the American dream is still well and alive. Maybe a little different than other times, but it's still well and alive. So I believe the American dream is there for us. And again, it goes back to the root and the foundation of the freedoms that we have, the liberties that we have, the order that we have, the laws that we have. All those things form a union and a knot and that gives you the strength to be able to do those things.